You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now we need to talk about a little bit more money, okay? And so that's when we incorporated the diving into it with some more money being put in my pocket.
are you sick of the song now? Is that something that you've gotten tired of that particular song?
Natural Born Killers?
Yeah.
No, I do. You know what? When you Google that song,
You come
it
out.
comes up sometimes as Natural Born Killers performed by Dr. Dre and Ice Cube, New Jack, or the Gangsta's theme music.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
Okay, now I'm sure you're familiar with Bootsy Collins. He redid he did a song for me, my own personal ring intro, and I used it when I was out in XPW. You know what I mean? And it was all me because people was always trying to figure out a way to chant New Jack. You know what I'm saying? And that was something that I was trying to, I told them stop. I hope that don't let that bother you that they're chanting my name and not yours. I'm like, but you're still getting paid just like I am, so just go along with it. You know what I mean? And then we got to a point where me and him weren't on the same page anymore, and one night Ricky Morton came up to me. He said, Jack, I'm going to say something to you, and I'm not trying to piss you off. He said, but I got one question. I said, what? He said, why can't black people do business together? And I said, Ricky, you know what? I said, that's true. I said, black people would rather just take a loss and lose the company than to share the money with somebody else. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Ricky said, Jack, for real? He said, me and Robert can't stand each other. He said, but wouldn't one of us be worth $5 without the other?
Right.
And that's what Ricky told me. You know what I mean? And I told Mustafa that, but it was too late because the damage had been done, and it was no, you couldn't repair that dent because it was too deep in there. You know what I mean? And it took us almost 10 years, I think. Almost 5 or 6 years to get back in the ring, and that was, but he convinced me to do the match against Mustafa. Now, going back, and I'll finish that story, with Cornette, when we left, I was doing promos about him, and I was talking about how racist he was, and this, that, and the other, and yada, 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 whatever. And he was talking about me, too, you know what I mean? And we were both going at each other bad, you know what I mean? And then it just got to a point, I'm like, okay, man, enough's enough. You done beat that dead horse to death, so just let it go. So we just haven't, and I never saw him anymore after that until this convention. And he was in the room doing this shoot, what you call you shoot. He was doing that, and somebody said, Jim Cornette's in there right now. Y'all got to be quiet walking down the hall. And I just went right up to the door and started banging on the door. Yeah. And they was in the middle of the shoot interview, and I walked in, and Cornette had a look on his eye like, oh, God. These niggas is going to kill me, I know it. And I walked in, and I started walking up towards him, and then I just started laughing. I was like, why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? And he started laughing, and we, like, man, look, man, let bygones be bygones. I'm like, we in this stuff to make money, and to take care of whoever we take care of, and that's that. You know what I mean? Exactly. So just, I'm like, dude, I don't have the strength in me to be pissed off at nobody anymore. I'm like, it don't mean, I said, it means nothing. So he's like, are we cool now? I was like, yeah, dude, we straight. And he's like, okay, now I can let my butthole loose. And we just all started laughing, you know what I mean? And so at that point, I mean, you know what, we could have walked out of the room. He might have said something bad about us, but I mean, on the record, we squashed it whenever that convention was.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I haven't talked to him or anything since then, but, all is well and water under the bridge and life goes on.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, also I wanted to know, we spoke to Shane about, the CCW thing, and obviously, it still carries on after all these years. I mean, you guys left a mark like nobody's business. TNA did it. You, of course, what did you think of that show, the Hardcore Justice show that TNA did to kind of revive ECW or maybe squeeze the tit a little bit of ECW?
You know what it did to me? Honestly, on a personal note, I said if I had to go out, that's how I would want to go out.
Wow.
And the way that they put me over, I'm like, if that's the last thing fans that paid for that show remember me as, that's the way I wanted to go out. And that's why if you go back, there's a bunch of pictures, or if you go on my Facebook wall, in my picture, you'll see somebody did almost a snap-by-snap shot of our match. And then when the show was over, we was in the ring, and Dixie Carter was just had her arm around my neck and rubbing my head and the side of my face. And I was involved with Terry Rowland at the time, and Terry was like, "Babe, if I didn't know any better, I would think she was trying to hit on you." And I was like, "Well, I said, she rubbed me long enough, something was about to erupt." And we started laughing, right? But and I thanked her, you know what I'm saying? I was like, "Hey, it is what it is," you know what I mean? And she did.
Is that the best looking promoter you ever worked for, Dixie?
That's the only, well, there was one other female, but she was a low-budget rent on the indie circuit. But Dixie, to answer your question, yes. She was cool as hell with me, you know what I mean?
Nice.
And it was just funny because I had gotten myself back in shape, and I had dropped all this weight, and my belly was back flat, and and everything was where it was supposed to be. And she told me at least 15 times a night, she says, "You look so good."
Oh.
And I was like, and that first time she said it, I was like, "Oh, thank you, Dixie." When I said about the 5th or 6th time, I was like, "Okay, Dixie." And then number 10, I'm like, "All right, Dixie." And it was cool, man, and we had a good time, you know what I'm saying?
That's
and,
good. I mean, what
I told her,
what do you think about the fans that were like, why did you guys hug in the ring? Like that kind of, you guys were brawling and then all of a sudden you started hugging. Like, what did you make of that? Like,
well, you know what? Nobody agreed to that.
Really?
Okay. Nobody. Well, Bubba kind of said that's what we was gonna do,
right.
And because he had some, enough pulls in the company where that's how. I didn't agree. Mustafa and Devon didn't agree. Balls and Axel didn't agree.
Right.
But either do it or not get paid. So we hugged. Well, and honestly, some people were like, they were pointing stuff out, and they were like, "New Jack, you were standing beside Devon. Why did you throw up the X and not hold his hand like everybody else did?" And I didn't think nobody caught on to it. But I had already said that I wasn't going to do it. So if you go back and see that picture, you will see where everybody is got each other's hand except for me.
Right.
I was holding up the X. I was like, I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? And because honestly, I thought that ending was corny.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just, people were like, okay, because
y'all
I just felt like
y'all were kind of like fucking each other up, and then all of a sudden, y'all hugging. You know what I mean? Like so.
Then all of a sudden, the room lit up, and you heard that noise like, oh! And then we ran and embraced each other like we were gay. I'm like, dude, I said, this is retarded. You know what I mean?
It's like the ending of Full House or something. You all make up.
Right. And I mean, my thing was, I said, let Axel and Bones go out there and do their thing, and then, at some point, what Bubba and D1 might be getting up on them and killing them, whatever, then hit our music, and then it turns into a three-way, and then, two people might get tossed out, and then a finish is hit, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And I said, but then they was like, some people was bitching about who didn't want to take the lay down for the other person, and I was like, are y'all serious? I'm like, dude, so it came out to be like one of the gayest endings in the history of wrestling. But I was like, hey, I got paid, so the hell with them. But with what they told me to do or wanted me to do, basically, I was like, if this is what people gonna remember me from my last appearance on TV, then this is the way I want to go out. And I personally called Dixie a couple of days later and thanked her for allowing me to go out like that. You know what I mean? I said, so if I don't ever come back here and work again, I said, thank you.
So obviously,
and that was just kind of closure.
Yeah, so obviously they did right by you.
Well, at the end with the little part we did in the match that was okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't agree with the finish. I just thought it was homo. I didn't agree with it.
and obviously what was missing too was the theme song, like the real, the Dr. Dre song.
Well, see, the thing was they had to get as close to it as they could.
Yeah.
Or contact the record company or whoever owns that song and pay them all these hundreds of thousands of dollars to use that song. So they said, well, we'll just make y'all a song, and we'll keep the beginning as close to like the missile dropping as we can, and y'all just go out there and do it, and the fans will get over it. So that's what happened. You know what I mean? Because Paulie was at the point where he was being notified before the company closed, right when we were getting ready to close, that we could not use that song on TV.
Right.
Okay, so it was becoming, the song was, the song actually helped us get over, but then the song also came back and bit us because it was like, we can't, we to the point now where the record companies were saying, y'all got to either pay us or not use our music.
It's kind of like what happened with Sandman. The Sandman pretty much had the same situation. His song was, or his entrance was like almost as popular as he was. So when it wasn't used, like in WWE, it was something was missing. You know what I mean?
Everyone was like, what the hell music is this?
Yeah, and I mean, like a lot of guys, they couldn't use their names because Vince owns their names. So, like Justin, they had to go by something else, and somebody else had to be called something else, and the Dudleys had to be called something 2000, some guard 3000, something stupid. And I mean, it was just like, are you serious? You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, and the funny thing about it was when I got offered to go to WWE, one of the agreements on the contract was if you are fired or quit or die or whatever, and you're no longer working for the company, your name stays here. And I was like, no, I can't agree to that.
Right.
I said, because see, if I wanted to go out on the indie circuit, or if I wanted to go and do something else that's involved in TV entertainment, who's going to pay to see Jerome Young?
Right.
Nobody. So don't nobody know who he is. But who's going to pay to see New Jack?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I was like, there is a life after wrestling, and I'm not giving y'all my name. So if that's where we stuck at, then that's where we'll be stuck at. You know what I mean?
What did you
so
think
that's why it was like.
What did you think of the entire show, though? Like, I know, like, your part was awesome with the Dudleys and Balls and Axel, but the entire show, like, did you even watch the entire show? Were you happy with it? Like, did you think TNA did right by ECW that night?
Do you want to be honest?
Yeah, of course.
I'll be totally honest with you. During the show, and this is the honest to God's truth, and if somebody get mad about it, then tell them to go to hell. But during the show, me and Terry were sitting in the back in a corner talking about stuff that wasn't even pertaining to the show.
Right.
The whole entire show until we was getting ready to go and do my match.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you what happened. I wasn't looking. I wasn't in Gorilla. I wasn't looking at the monitor. I wasn't watching the show. I didn't watch it. I swear to God. Because she came to the show with me, and she was in the back with me, and we found a corner, and we were sitting over there talking about stuff that we was going to be doing the next week or going somewhere or whatever, and I didn't watch one match. I swear to God.
Did you get feedback from people about that show? Did people tell you a lot about it, how they felt about it, that it meant something to them?
They said a lot of people. The only negative thing I got out of it was two things I got out of it. And one of them I started laughing. Somebody said they didn't like our finish.
Yeah.
And they said, New Jack, y'all should have. That was like the finish was just garbage. I'm like, I know. It's like y'all been battling for all these years, and at the end y'all hug each other and kiss. I'm like, dude, like Jesus Christ. And they said another thing I didn't like. That they didn't let you dive. I said, do you realize every time I dove on top of somebody that shit hurts?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm flying through the air at 80 miles an hour and hit the ground. I said, that hurt. And I said, it wasn't a matter of them not letting me die. I told them I wasn't diving.
Right.
You know what I mean?